Well, hello, and welcome to Stop, Let's Team Up, My Legion Adventure number 47. We've got a triple header today because next week we start doing a series of two-parters, and some of those are great. The first one is one of my earliest Silver Age comics, or Legion comics I ever read, but that's for next week. This week we're going to do the three that I said, Adventure Comics 338, Superboy 125, and Adventure Comics 339. So let's get started with 338. Adventure Comics 338, cover date 1965, November 1965. Cover credits Kurt Swan, George Klein, Irish Shop. It's got Super Babies. Superboy's up behind a force field on the other side of the Iron Curtain of Time, and he's watching a baby matter eater lad eat a ray gun. Not baby, toddlers. They're toddlers. Toddler light lash raining coin on somebody, and a toddler Ultra Boy carrying the cage around a bank teller's desk open. And the title is featuring Matter Eater Lad, Ultra Boy, Light Lass, and practically the whole Legion gang. The menace of the sinister babies. The showdown with the time trapper everyone's been waiting for. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. All right, credits for this one is editor, plotter, Mort Weisinger, penciler, scripter, Jerry Siegel, penciler, inker, Joe Forte, letterer, Milton Snapin. The title of this story is Wow, it's not in there. What is... Oh, there that is. I'm blind. Can't see it in my notes. Story is The Menace of the Sinister Super Baby, 16 pages, part 2. The subtitle is The Time Trapper's Invincible Infantry. Roll call: Saturn Girls, Chameleon Boy, Invisible Kid, Starboy, Brainiac 5, Superboy, Ultra Boy, Matter Eater Lad, Element Lad, and Light Lass. Supporting characters: Rawl and Mitz Kem, Matter Eater Lad's parents. The villain, Time Trapper, and Gorith of Buuldar, her first appearance. She will become, in the future, a substitute for the Time Trapper after continuity gets all screwed up after Crisis. I know it's screwed up in a bad way. I like Crisis, and I don't mind post-Crisis, but Superboy, the Legion mythos got hit pretty hard by that. All right, synopsis. In his headquarters, millions of years in the future, the Time Trapper summons his assistant, Gorith of Buuldar, and gives her an hourglass which has the power to devolve anyone who touches it into protoplasmic slime. Ew. Her assignment is to pass through the Time Trapper's Iron Curtain of Time and use this weapon to destroy his hated foes, the Legion of Superheroes. In the 30th century, Saturn Girl gathers the Legion and tells them they may have their long-awaited showdown with the Time Trapper at last. She leads them to an amusement park where Gorith, who had mentally contacted Saturn Girl, waits. After demonstrating the Time Trapper's force barrier ring to gain their trust, she has them touch the hourglass. Immediately they begin to become younger, but stop when they reach infancy because a chemical spray from a nearby fountain halts the age-regressing process. Watching on his time scope, the Time Trapper leaves to take matters into his own hands after arranging for Superboy and Brainiac 5 to be stranded in the far future behind his Iron Curtain. As the baby Legionnaires cavort about him, the Time Trapper decides to use them to his own advantage by having them rob a bank and steal valuable items for him. He then tricks Gorith, removing her protective glove, and presses the hourglass into her hand, devolving her into a slime as punishment for her failure, and then takes back his force barrier ring. After taking the Legionnaires' children to another world in hopes of completing their regression, the Time Trapper finds his craft changed into candy by Element Lad and devoured by the children. Superboy and Brainiac 5 are freed when the mechanism creating the Iron Curtain of Time is eaten and they materialize to capture him. A deal is struck and the Time Trapper restores the Legionnaires to their correct age in exchange for a spacecraft and freedom. After the Legionnaires leave, they learn that Brainiac 5 had used the Time Barrier's force barrier to surround his ship and thus stranding him. Okay, I enjoyed this comic. It was fun. It's a little silly, like a lot of these are. I keep using that as the best adjective for it because, they get turned into babies. It's a very Silver Age thing. Someone gets turned into a monkey. Someone turned into a baby, whatever. You get to meet some of their family. You get to see what they do in the Legionnaires do in their time off, which is fun in the early part of the story. Invisible Kid's on a date and with someone called Marquita, and it doesn't go well as he runs off. Element Lad is is asked by Mattery Lad to create a gold bust of his mother, and they get called away. Chameleon Boy has a part-time gig playing monsters in movies. So it's fun, and there's all this stuff. It's just so silly, and what I get is it is very much a very funny comedic story, meant to be silly, meant to be full of fun, meant to be something kids would enjoy. But we've been hearing all this about the Time Chopper. So reading this, and I know the Time Chopper from when I read it, I mean, he's a huge big bad in the future. Because, I mean, I started reading this, this Legion stories much later. It's really silly, and it's just kind of anticlimactic that this big bad, who becomes this big arch enemy of theirs, has babies steal money for him. It's really silly. I think you're going to enjoy it. If you're enjoying the Silver Age stuff and you like the nostalgia of the Silver Age stuff, or you're doing this, reading this for the first time, I think you'll be entertained by it. It's just a little disappointing that is, and I don't think I'd read this. I've never read this one. I know the cover, but I've never read it. And I've had this archived for, I don't want to know, probably 25 years, 30 years. So next up is Superboy 125. So hold on, and I'm going to pause while I pull up a synopsis, because this is not in my Legion Index. For this issue, we're going to be using the DC database online. Superboy Volume 1, number 125, December 1965. Cover artist Kurt Swan, George Klein. And it's Superboy and Kid Pyscho battling bad guys, and there's kryptonite. It's pretty fun. There are 3 stories in this one, and we're really covering the sacrifice of Kid Pyscho. Writer Otto Binder, very cool. Penciler George Papp, gorgeous George Papp art. Here is the little blurb. Let me find the one for this story. These things, there's a lot here. Here we go. Synopsis for the sacrifice of Kid Pyscho. One day, a strange turban-wearing boy appears in Smallville and happens into Paul Kent's store. When Clark is working, Superboy becomes intrigued by this strangely garbed boy. When he asks for the directions to Superboy's home, curious to find out that why this young boy is looking for Superboy, Clark changes into his alter ego in a surprise when he finds that the strange lad is able to create protective screens to protect himself and other various threats. Finally, the boy reveals himself as Kid Pyscho, a being from the 30th century who developed his powers at birth due to the fact his parents were exposed to a biogenic radiations while fighting a space monster. As the last survivor of his homeworld, Kid Pyscho would later try to join the Legion of Superheroes and have his membership rejected. Piquing Superboy's curiosity is why his fellow Legionnaires would deny a superpowered being with such useful superpowers. He agrees to travel to the 30th century to find out why. Confronting the Legion, they learn that the examination, the Legion rejected Kid Pyscho's application because every time he uses his power, it reduces his life expectancy by a year. Kid Pyscho still wishes to contribute to the Legion, and after there's some deliberation, Superboy convinces the Legion to accept Kid Pyscho as a reserve member, accepting the role and to act as a secret weapon should the Legion need him. Kid Pyscho thanks Superboy before he returns to the 20th century. Roll call for this one for the Legion is Brainiac 5, Chameleon Boy, Cosmic Boy, Karate Kid flashback only. Karate Kid's not in here. That's wrong. Lightning Lad, Saturn Girl, Sun Boy. This is really neat. I've never read this. I know who Kid Pyscho is. He dies, and he popped up every once in a while when they had all hands on deck. He dies in the Crisis. This was a really good comic. The art was wonderful. The story was a very quaint Silver Age Superboy story. It was quick and short and fun and light. And it was handled very grace. It handled stuff, I would think in some Silver Age stories that wouldn't get handled as well. The fact that he's wearing a turban. Superboy goes, what odd clothes this boy wears. I never saw him in town before. He must be a visitor from some foreign land. And he, it could have been much more racist and off-putting because someone was wearing a turban. But the art's gorgeous. I mean, it is. And it's got nice flashbacks, and it's got a quaint little story. I like Psycho Force. He can travel through time. It's just a nice little thing. And now I'm going to redo, I haven't done the latest Legion monitor board. Now I got to make 2 because I got to put Kid Pyscho on the the reserve members, because he's now a reservist with Bouncing Boy. So next up is Adventure 339, The Menace of Beast Boy. So that is cover dated December 1965. Cover credits Kurt Swan and George Klein. Letter John Letteros. It's got a big banner. Extra DC's funniest feature, the Big Boo Boo contest above the Adventure Comics logo. Adventure Comics featuring the lead Superboy and the Legionairres, and it's Legionnaires in cages and the Beast Boy from the Heroes of Lallor, and Superboy and Mon-El are beating the crap out of each other. Story is called Hunters of the Super Beast. Part 2 is called The Menace of Beast Boy. It's a 19-page masterpiece. Mort Weisinger, editor, plotter, scripter Edmund Hamilton, penciler John Forte, inker Sheldon Maldorf, letter Vivian Berg. Roll call: Saturn Girl, Chameleon Boy, Brainiac 5, Sun Boy, Lightning Lad, Phantom Girl, Invisible Kid, Colossal Boy, Star Boy, Superboy, Mon-El. Supporting cast: Evilo Lad, Gas Girl, Life Lass, Duplicate Boy, and the villain is Beast Boy. Let's do the synopsis, and we'll get talking about this. There's a lot to talk about. The Legionnaires are summoned to the planet Vorn, home of many strange animal species. Informed that the wild beasts have suddenly and mysteriously become intelligent, the humans determine to find out how. The animals they capture for study are soon freed, however, and they conclude that only one person, Beast Boy, of the Heroes of Lallor, could be behind it all. Superboy speeds to Lallor, where Beast Boy's comrade confirmed that he had become a brooding loner, shunned by all except them, and he left their planet to settle on Vorn with only the animals as his companions. Back on Vorn, Beast Boy reveals himself and warns the Legion to leave or die. When the Legionnaires refuse to depart, Beast Boy changes into an animal and lets himself be caught by a trapper, hoping to leave Vorn and evade capture. Saturn Girl reads his thoughts and to learn his ploy, and the heroes accompany him aboard a great space ark bound for Earth. There, the disguised Beast Boy is put in a cage in the Metropolis Zoo, from which he escapes. Changing into a dog, he roams the nearby countryside, befriended by a little girl. When she is menaced by the Maw, a creature which had accidentally been freed when he escaped from the zoo, he saves her life at the cost of his own. The Legion arrives in time to see him return to his human form in death and honor him as the hero he ultimately proved to be. It was a fun, Legion story. I enjoyed it. I like, this was one I've liked a lot more than some of the others. And I think it's because I have absolutely never read it. And I think that's part of it, that it was new and fresh. And it had a pretty good story. I like that Beast Boy. I mean, it's not like the misunderstood and then he's, everybody likes me, happy ending. That it has a sad ending. That, people's prejudice and disdain for people hurts. And it could drive someone to do, to lash out, and that's what Beast Boy does. But then when he sees a little girl, he saves himself. It's a little wholesome Silver Age story, but it's a little bit better than some of the other ones. I really liked it. I liked Beast Boy. He was a good character. I kind of appreciate his character design a little bit more this time. Again, wacky John Forte aliens, and I loved it. But it was a fun story. I really like it. What I want to talk about most is that this is John Forte's last issue. He died after this was done. He'd been sick, and this was the last one he did. And it's kind of sad. I'd always liked John Forte, and the more during this reread, I realized how much I really do appreciate his stamp on Legion. He had a long run, almost over 40 issues of Legion stories that he drew, and the characters that he introduced and designed, and that there's an aesthetic. And I always break the Silver Age into different chunks in my head. There's pre-adventure comic, then there's adventure comic, the John Forte, Weisinger, Hamilton, Siegel here, but the Forte look, and then you have Kurt Swan, which with the next episode next week we'll be covering the 2-part Computo story Really important story for me as a fan, but it is just such a big milestone in the comic, and we get Kurt Swan as the penciler. So I always think of the Kurt Swan era, and that can be broken into pre-shooter and then post-shooter. But Kurt Swan's Legion is so amazing. But I really have enjoyed everything that we've seen from John Forte, the death of Lightning Lad, the return of Lightning Lad, all the characters he introduced, the Time Trapper, Gorith, all this, and he has such a unique style. And I don't know if you gave these comics to like a 25 or 30-year-old fan, if they would really get it. I bet they would. They're very much of their time. They're very simplistic. They're simple morality plays, or just simple stories and plots. But I think he just makes them so much better with his wonderful art. And he died too soon. Yeah, but he could have. We talk about. I don't think he's talked about enough. And I just wanted to say that, since this is the last time we're going to see any of his work in a Legion story. All right, folks, that's it for this week. This is an extra long. I don't even know it's this extra long. It's just shorter with each episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be recording with Ron from the Fantastic Comic Fan, and we're recording 2 episodes for each of our shows, Saturday and Sunday, and one of ours will get put up as the weekend one. I am working on the Starman podcast. I may even have a title for it, which will be announced maybe this weekend, and it will premiere sometime in February. And that's good. I'm sitting down with Billy from A World on Fire, and we're going to talk Legion of Monsters, and I'm going to be guesting on. We're going to talk Zany Haney. I'm going to be on the Zany Haney show. I'm really excited about that. But folks, hey, until I'm back, be smart, be safe, and read some comics.